to speak several months ago. They wanted me to speak about my trips to Unity Village. I've been out there 4 times. And I told Cheryl, I said, I don't think I want to talk about the beauty of the village for 20 minutes and the workshops I attended, even though they were good, and I got a lot out of them. I wanted something more that I felt moved to. And I do encourage everyone, please go out to Unity Village. They have great workshops. It's a beautiful place. But I've been out there 4 times. The second time I went out was in 2008. And that's why I wanted to talk about something that happened there that led to this talk today. So during this retreat, every time I go out there, these are for retreats for people of African descent who are either in Unity or New Thought. And so they have a weekend of workshops, music, service, and whatever. So obviously there's some downtime. So in 2008, during some downtime, there was a small group of us decided to walk around the Unity Village, or really the farm, where the farm used to be before it became a village, and the whole thing we know today. And as we were walking around, this one minister was with us, and he was talking about a little history. And who was an African-American woman who was enrolled in ministerial school at Unity in the 1950s. And when she enrolled, when you enrolled at Unity Village, a lot of times the students stay on campus because they're coming from all over. Well, in the 1950s, Unity Village would not allow her to live on campus. And so she told them that if I cannot stay on campus, I will not attend. And a few of her classmates concurred. If she can't stay on campus, we won't be here. And so Unity Village, or whoever it was, allowed her to stay on campus. Well, when I heard that story, my heart sank. It really soured Unity Village for me at that moment, because I thought, this is Unity Village, unity philosophy, oneness, differences. And I was really disheartened. And I couldn't get over it. And anyway, what ended up happening, seems convoluted based on the talk today, but I had to get to some kind of resolution with that within myself and make sense of it all. And so I came up with spiritual expansion. And it seems very convoluted, and maybe by the end you'll kind of get where I'm going with this. Because this talk is not about Unity Village and what they did back then. This talk is really about us and spiritual expansion and what that means. So when I think about spiritual expansion, there's a lot, areas. And one of the areas is that spiritual expansion is ongoing. The other is that spiritual expansion is a choice we make. And spiritual expansion has gifts within it if we choose to expand. And so therefore, when I look at that things are always on the move. And and we know that in life, things can either go forward or go backwards. But spiritual expansion assumes that we're always going to move forward. Because we are in spirit, we are working with the divine, and we will move in that direction. But what happens to some of us at times is that we might have a blind spot. We might think, oh yes, I'm spiritually, I'm advancing, and we're not really looking at, is there a part of me that really needs some more work? Is there something in there that I'm missing? I think about Unity Village. I'm sure after all those years, printing all those things, having classes, all this philosophy, were they really, they were like, we are really on this road. And here's this blind spot. African Americans can't stay here. They weren't even probably aware of what they were doing, where it was. And I'm thinking here, in this day and age, we're like, what? Isn't that so obvious? And I think, what about us and say, I cannot believe they didn't see that. It's so obvious. You know, so we can sometimes think we've made it, we've arrived. You know, we know everything and we're so awake and everything else. But we need to be aware that we probably do need areas in our life that we need to grow and expand on. And that's what spiritual expansion is about, ongoing spiritual expansion, never ending. I'm going to read something that I have the book from Charles Fillmore, The 12 Powers, and I wanted to read this part about life that Cora was saying. And, you know, this was written in the 1930s, so sometimes the language is a little convoluted, if you ask me, but I'm trying to help explain this in some way. So if I read too much, I get lost, so I'll try not to do too much. And it says here, he whose consciousness is spiritually quickened is content with life on this planet because he knows that he is working out all the different phases of existence here and now. He knows that his body, his mental capacity, his environment are all a shadowing forth of the measure and the manner in which he has contracted the inner life and contented in unraveling his problems. And it goes on to say, the soul is always jubilant and like spiritual progression. So, you know, what it's saying here for me is that as long as I am spiritually quickened, as long as I am on a spiritual path, that I'm going to find some jubilance, some happiness, some forward thrust. And that's what spiritual expansion is, a forward thrust in life. It's saying to me, I am not content to be where I am, even though it's a good place. You know, it's a great place for today. But what is it going to be in 10 years, 15 years? If I'm still at the same place, you know, there's something, I'm not growing spiritually. The other thing about spiritual growth, and this is sometimes hard for us to understand, is that we take all these classes. You know, I take a lot of unity classes, and Patti mentioned I've been around with this particular fellowship for 25 years or so, and studying books and reading books and doing workshops, going to Unity Village and everything else. And so that's really good. That's really wonderful, but it means nothing if I am not applying it to my life. When I leave these doors, if I am not applying this book and whatever else to my life, I am not growing spiritually. And so these classes are very interesting. I go, oh, that sounds good. That sounds great. Walk out that door, someone cuts me off in traffic, and it's not so good anymore, you know what I mean? And so I know that at Unity Village in Santa Fe, they have a little placard as you leave the driveway. It says, this is where the rubber meets the road. Okay, we had a great time in this facility and with each other, but now go out there and see, can you put it into practice? And so that's, for me, is what it's all about, spiritual expansion and letting it be ongoing. And it cannot I cannot go out and apply it and not grow spiritually. I am not growing spiritually if I am just reading, if I am just listening, and whatever else. It has to be applied. You know, there's something I do periodically to see if I am growing anywhere in my life. Because, you know, like, how do I know if I'm growing? So my marker is to look back for 1 year. So today is July 13th. I say, since July 13th last year, can I see any change in my life, in my behaviors, in my attitudes? And I sit there, okay, let me think. No, I'm still doing that, okay. But where is there a change? Oh, good. You know, I am treating so-and-so differently. I am no longer upset about X, Y, and Z. And then I know, okay, I'm proceeding. It's not about me changing myself totally every year. It's about, am I growing? Am I expanding? And so I do that, you know, throughout the year. It's like from 1 year, from this particular date, has anything changed in my life? And if not, I need to think about that, you know, and to realize more needs to be done. I'm not applying what I'm learning here. You know, there is, in John 14:12, Jesus said, "Very truly I tell you, the one who believes in me will also do the works that I do, and in fact will do greater works than these, because I am going to the Father." And when but the part that I always get and try to take in is that greater works than these will I do. And at Unity, and from what I've heard, is that what it's telling us is that Jesus came to show us how things can be done, but we can do that and more. And that's what spiritual expansion's all about, is that there is no limit. And I think last week the daily word was limitless possibilities. We think we can only do as much as maybe Jesus did. We can't do more than Jesus did. Well, no, we can do more. And that's our challenge. You know, we are not just these human beings with these limitations. We are unlimited. We can expand, and we are meant to expand no matter what. The other thing I want to talk about expansion is that expansion is a choice. We can choose to expand, or we can say, no, I'm standing here, I'm not going to move. I've done all I want to do. I look back and look at all I've achieved. Isn't it great? And I want to say, you know, but expansion is a choice. And so there is a term in the 12-step program, an acronym they use, HOW, H-O-W, honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. And if you think about the choice of spiritual expansion, in order to expand, we have to really be honest with ourselves. We have to really say, I am willing to look at myself and say, oh, that does not look good. You know, and to be able to accept it, and not as a judgment, as shame or guilt or anything else, but just as information. But in order to do that, one has to be honest with oneself. You can't go there and say, and pretend it was not there. I just want to tell you something that at first, I mean, this is kind of a little embarrassment, but no, this is spiritual expansion for me. I was with some people, and this person had their child with them, and giving all this attention to their attention. I used to get really irritated, really irritated. And finally it dawned on me, expansion, you're jealous of that child. I go, oh my gosh, how can I be jealous of a child? But that's what it was. I had to accept that, you know, and I feel it is a little embarrassing, but not, not as much as it used to be. But it's the honest thing. That was the honesty there. I had to be honest with myself. Dorothy, that's the problem. It's not the child, it's not what she's doing, it's your jealousy of the child. And so then I had to be open-mindedness. What does that mean for me? You're like, what does that mean that I'm jealous? Well, I had to be willing to examine that and go through with it. You know, I wanted that attention. I wanted that time. And she's taking that time and spending it with that child, you know, and whatever else that was, and to deal with it. And then I had to be willing, the willingness to change. And that was like, that is not how I want to be in this world or in this relationship, jealous of a child. You know, that is not who I want to be. And so, do you know, just by going through that, a lot of that dissipated. I began then when I was with and go, oh, she's with her child. It doesn't diminish my relationship with her. Who wouldn't want to be with their child? You know, come on. And so, but if I had not been honest, I would have just thought, this is very irritating. You know, why is she doing this? Why when she's supposed to be talking to me? You know, that kind of thing. So being honest and open and willing is very important. And it can be surprising sometimes to see a trait in ourselves, to say like, oh, I thought I was beyond that. But you know, we need to be able to do that in order to expand and not just like, and blame the other person. Because so often it's so easy to point and say, they shouldn't be doing that. They shouldn't blah, 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 blah. Instead of looking back and saying, why is this bothering me? You know, this is bothering me. Look inside and see. I do that a lot more now. Anytime something is bothering me, I go, what is it that got triggered in you? There's something in you that got triggered. And I think at Unity Village, what got triggered in me when I heard that story? You know, it triggered all the things, because I was alive in the 50s and 60s. It brought back all the pain and trauma that I had experienced. And that's what got triggered for me at Unity Village, you know? So, you know, our friend Vince Lisi, you know, says that we need to be honest with ourselves within the depths of our souls. You know, that is so important that we do that. And when we do that, we experience gifts. And the gifts are embedded in spiritual expansion. They come automatically. You know, have you seen pictures of people, they have a gift, and they're wondering what's in it, and they're rattling the package and shaking it, trying to figure out? Well, when we are expanding spiritually, we might not know and understand what the gift is in that package. And we don't need to know, but all we need to know is that there is a gift in there. And that's what I tell myself. Yeah, why don't you work on that issue? Because you know there is a gift in there for you. There is something in this. Go through it. Go through the embarrassment, the pain, or whatever, because there is a gift. And I've said that to myself many times. And I've said that, okay, God, I know there's a gift in here. I'm going through this. And it could be anything. But the gifts are not the gifts that we think of materially. Like, there better be a car in here. I better get a house. You know, something like that. It's more of a spiritual gift, a gift of peace, a gift of hope, a gift of love, a gift of understanding. You know, the 12 powers that Charles Fillmore talked about, all of those are gifts that are already embedded in us. And as we expand spiritually, those gifts come out more and more and more. And so therefore, we want to keep developing those gifts. and just know that we're going to be surprised when we grow and we'll see the gift and go, oh my gosh, I feel so much peace now when I'm with that person. Oh my gosh, I'm really loving them. I have a neighbor who I'm going to tell you, hard for me to deal with at times. I mean, really. And I see him and like try to get in the house without him seeing me and whatever, the kind of thing. And he's been very nice to me and sometimes I just don't like his personality. I'm going to be I just realized this whole summer, when he's out there, I'm not feeling a dread. And if he wants to talk to me, and this is part of the dread, is that when he starts talking to you and he's fixing his car, he's going to tell you about every part of the car and how he's putting it together. And it goes, and you could be out there for hours. And instead, oh, he's going to tell me about his car and the part he's bought, how he bought it, and whatever. And I've developed an acceptance of him. And I've developed, like, not that I really look forward to learning about cars that deeply, but I do feel a sense of peace. You know, I'm no longer like, I need to hide, I need to duck, oh, there he is, and whatever. And I've developed patience, really, which is a gift for me. And so I want to wrap this up because I don't want to go too far with all of this, but in this book, I've been studying with Vince Lisi, The Science of Being and the Art of Living, and it's by, sorry, my glasses are bad. It's by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. Okay, sorry about all that. Okay, and what he talks about, he says expansion. Think of this as spiritual expansion of happiness is the purpose of life, and the evolution is the process. Life begins in a natural way. It evolves, changes, grows, expands, and happiness expands. The expansion of happiness carries with it the expansion of intelligence that may be said to be of significance in life. You know, this is happiness. I mean, there's so many spiritual books that talk about happiness, and we think, no, happiness is not the purpose of life, but truly it is, and as we expand, we'll get more and more of it. So just real quick to sum up about Unity Village, and so as I go back and looked at what happened at Unity Village, I think about their ongoing can an organization and an institution. Unity was given an opportunity to expand their consciousness. It rose to the occasion, and they expanded their consciousness around allowing African Americans to stay on campus. And not only I'll say to be open-minded enough to apply what they knew to the situation. So that it's not about an organization or someone falling short, it's about their willingness to expand and to grow and to allow the gifts their expansion, but I know the gift I got. The gift to stay on campus, in the village, and to grow from it. And I know, and I hope that they grew from us. And I hope that the message is not about what Unity Village did, but about what we can do to grow and in our lives and to expand spiritually and receive the gifts that are ours to be received. Thank you for listening.